Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are doing well, enjoying the heat of summer, the thick of summer. It is in full swing here at the Phineas Wright House. We have really hot days and then beautiful thunderstorms that are hydrating the dahlias and the weeds. This place. I tell you, I like to be on the road as much as possible, but the property is really calling my heart home for the next few weeks to take care of things, to tend my garden, to be just a part of the magic that is this place. It is alive. And I love how it changes from season to season. So I am enjoying being here this summer. I am enjoying watching just all the beauty that New England has to offer. And I would love to share some of that beauty with you if you are interested in doing a farm stay. Not in the summer, of course, because that is fleeting, but I do have some space this fall. So if you are looking for some time in New England for that beautiful foliage, then check out the link in the show notes and you can get all that yummy information. It would be so fun to play with you. But until then, let me tell you about today's guest. We have the amazing Penny Zenker. From her own experience with executive burnout and as a recovering perfectionist, Penny helps leaders and organizations turn focus into their most strategic advantage, especially during times of rapid change and uncertainty. Known as the Focusologist, she is a former tech entrepreneur, turnaround specialist, and C-suite executive. Today, Penny is a sought-after international keynote speaker, a two-time best-selling award-winning author. She was recognized by Success Magazine as a top 10 business books and received the prestigious International Impact Award. Her TEDx talk, The Energy of Thought, has surpassed 1 million views, and her podcast, Take Back Time, ranks in the top 3% globally, underscoring her mission to help others own their focus, stay adaptable, and maximize their potential. But Penny's story isn't only about business and productivity. She also served as an executive producer on a Hollywood film, raced mountain bikes through the Swiss Alps, and embraced new adventures across the globe, from glacier walking and scuba diving to deep sea fishing and skydiving. To her, success is not just about work. It's about fully embracing the adventure of life itself. Isn't she cool? I cannot wait for you to enjoy this conversation with Penny Zenker. Penny, I am so excited to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you in advance for your time.
Pleasure. I'm excited too. Let's go.
It's going to be fun. Well, we will dive right in then. How are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
In this season,
I define season very broadly. I believe there are seasons of a woman's life. So you can answer that any way you translate that word.
absolutely. I kind of view it like that as well. I am in a season of grace and space.
Beautiful.
So I have for various different reasons. One of them being is I just launched my book last year, and it really burned me out. Like there's things,
Mm.
you're in a sprint, there's things that you need to do for a particular period of time. But I also put a timeline on it and said, okay, now is time for me to create some space and some grace for myself in a lot of different ways, and serving myself, but also serving others.
Oh, I love that. Now, the burnout situation, was that more associated with the writing of the book or with the promotion of the book? Or was it just a long season of birthing something beautiful?
Yes, yes, and yes, because
Perfect.
it doesn't happen all of a sudden, right? It was a very long process. I started out writing a different book,
Mm,
and it morphed into something else. So it did take a really long time. There were a lot of stops and starts, or what I call resets. So as I learned along the way, there were pivots that I felt were important for me to make. And then, yeah, and each stage of that just took a lot out of me. And
mm,
I had everything else going on in my life at the same time, right? So as we
sure.
do. So
Right.
it was just a lot.
Right. This idea of writing a book and being in a cabin in the woods or something, like
Oh,
it all
doesn't that sound
happens,
lovely?
right, in one weekend, that you're going to bust this out, or that you can possibly take a break from your life for 5 weeks or something. And then who's going to make the food? It's just, I feel like it's this idea, but similarly to an Instagram post with no caption or no, like you can't see how that would actually play out. So how did you create a schedule that allowed you to write and pivot and live this full life that you were living?
But I think I'd also like to reflect back on my first book. This is my second book.
Okay.
And I think it would be interesting for your readers because when I wrote my first book, The Productivity Zone, Stop the Tug of War with Time, it actually wrote a lot faster, but I had very different
Mm,
goals for it. So it was
sure.
a different thing. I already had the structure, I already had the framework, but my kids were 3 and 5 at the time when I
Mm,
was starting that. So I had to wake up like 4 a.m. before they would get up. I would write or do whatever I needed to do, whether it was the editing or the marketing or whatever it was. It was in the hours of before they got up and after they went to bed. Luckily, at that time, they had an early bedtime, so they'd go to bed at 7 or 8, and then I'd be up until midnight.
mm,
But saying yes to one thing, even to ourselves, is saying no to something else, right? So if
right.
I'm saying yes to this work that I'm going to do, then that's going to fill that extra time. So, if somebody wanted to, I was dating at the time because I was a single mom. So it was like, well, I had one night a week that I could go out, and that's all I gave myself because I was doing these other things. So
Wow.
prioritizing is really important, and also prioritizing ourselves. It was a commitment to me to
Yep.
take that date night. So there was no doubt that that was something for me, right? That's where I said yes to me, and that was good, and that helped me to stay focused and write the book in 6 months. Now this book,
Wow. And you were writing a book about time.
well,
So it was fascinating.
yes and no. I don't
Okay.
consider myself and my approach to really be about time management. It's about
Mhm.
prioritization.
Right. As you said, which is so beautiful.
So yeah, so there I did it, right? But the second one, I don't know what happened. It took me 2 years, or more. Maybe it was three even. But like I said, it started out as one thing. Like I thought it was going to be more of a book on focus, but it was so much more than that. It was so much deeper than that. And it started out to be called the 80-20 rule, like it was live the 80-20 rule. But I was like, that's
Sure.
not really what it is. That's only one piece of it, is to understand that's a reset practice for us to get
Mm,
focused. But wow, these reset practices are everywhere in my life. And these reset moments that we can say yes to ourselves are there every single day, but we push through them, we push them away, and then we don't have it for ourselves. So I realized that it was much bigger than that. And the more I talked about it, the more I realized what it was. And so it needed time to gestate, like, just
Sure.
like a good birth, right? Is
Right.
it needed time to grow from that little, initial seed to what it is becoming. And it's still becoming. Like, I launched it, but it's still morphing and changing. And since I wrote it, there's so much more to it. And I'm excited to, where it's going. So there'll be a second and a third book for sure in some shape or form. That's just sort of the introduction.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I think it's so fascinating how this concept of focus we think is, limiting. Like I'm moving out all of the stuff in the peripheral and I'm going to be focused. Focused was
Mm.
my word for 2024. And at first, it wasn't my first choice, but I had a coach that
That told you you should focus.
suggested that would be my word, and so I was in resistance about it, and then had to make a shift. Okay, I'm not going to argue with coaching that I haven't actually implemented yet, so let's see. And what I heard in my body with the word focus was limited. And
Mm,
what I experienced was with the word focus was depth, was expansion, was
yeah.
curiosity that wasn't wide and spread out. It was contained and effective. And it's so I can see how a book that is moving from one area more in the direction of focus quickly becomes 3 books and that probably more than that.
I love what you just said. That's, it's so interesting, right? We do think of limiting. So what you just said is really beautiful. And also I think that we think that focus is just about attention.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, focus is actually where our attention and our intention are aligned, with the direction. And so what that actually requires is sometimes we do zoom in and we get a more granular look at things, but sometimes we need to step out, right? And step back and expand. So zooming in and zooming out are all part of focusing, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
a camera, there's times when you need to zoom in and zoom out. And so, yeah, like you said, it opens up our perspective and gives us a new definition so that we can break through those limited thoughts about what it really holds.
Right. And it ties into these concept of doing less better. So it's not, again, not coming from an idea or a consciousness of lack, but in a knowing that we're not going to miss out on what's meant for us. And when we go deeper into a subject or a direction, whether it's a job or a pivot we want to make in our lives, that dedicated attention and intention in that direction helps us know more quickly if it's time to pivot or what course
Mhm.
corrections we need to make. There's always this fine tuning. It's not, well, I've decided and now this is the hill I'm dying
Right.
on. It's like, no one has to die. We're just, you can choose another hill. It's okay.
Right, but it's as you said, right? And in my book, the one of the core pillars of the reset mindset, which is the name of the book, is this dynamic reassessment. Just like you said, that fine tuning is constantly realigning with the goal or the intention that you set out with, but also adapting with the situation and the circumstance and what the future is looking like. So
Right.
it can be freeing, right? Because it allows you more quickly, as you said, to say no so that
Mm-hmm.
you can say yes to the right things.
Yes.
And here's the funny thing, like, I don't know about you, but like, there's this thing where people say, "Oh, do more," right? Do more with less is what the companies are saying. And how can we do more with our time? We don't want to do more. We miss
No.
that nuance of words. Is we don't want to do more. We want to
Right.
achieve more. We want more meaning, but we want to do that with less effort. And the truth is, when we focus, in this way and realign and constantly check in and make sure we're doing the right things, then we're able to do it in less effort. We're able to reach those goals faster and with less effort. That's the paradox there is we're just missing the point.
Right. Well, we have the opportunity to be more.
Yes.
When you're focused, you are giving your undivided attention and leaning into this direction. It's developing you in the process. It's not redefining you or defining you at all. You're just melding with it and becoming the person that does this thing or is this thing or is becoming this thing.
It's refining us. You just said it's not defining us, it's refining us. I
Mhm.
actually, that's a little play on words that I did in my TEDx that I did a number of years ago called the energy of thought.
Ooh, say more about that.
Well, it kind of leads into the reset mindset,
Yeah.
in that focus drives our behavior.
Mhm.
And our focus is determined by our thoughts. And I know a lot of people say that that's not true, but we absolutely, if we think about it, we think that we will make a resolution, and we'll say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I want to be thinner. But the reason that we cancel and it doesn't work is because of the thoughts that we actually have about how we hate the gym, or just like you said, it felt limited.
Right. Or it'll never work or whatever. Everyone
Right.
listening to this knows that we turn thoughts into things. So you're in
Perfect.
the right room, Queen.
Perfect. So
Speak
the
on.
energy of thought is recognizing what energy you're in, what your old story is, and then shifting it, right? The
Yes.
reset mindset is giving yourself permission to take what I
That's right.
call a reset moment, right?
Yes.
Permission to pause, to
Right.
reevaluate, and to say, this isn't serving me.
Hmm.
Or, whatever the question might be, is this really
Yeah.
serving me? Is this really a priority for me? Whatever, in that moment, asking yourself that question gives you the space to realign.
Right. My personal mantra is that I'm only available for what delights me. So that's the grid that and the filter that new opportunities run through. And it's very fun. There are elements of my day that task on its own might not delight me, but it's a part of the bigger picture.
Mhm.
I was telling you earlier, I have a small flower farm. So dividing the dahlia tubers is, well, I do like that actually. I think it's everything is really fun. It's just the scope of the job. It just takes a long time because there are 2,000 tubers,
Right. So it
right?
might
So
feel tedious or whatever to do it over and over again as you go down the line, right?
exactly.
But as long as you keep that bigger picture.
Right, because I take delight that I grow dahlias in New England, which is an absolute labor of love. I like being that girl, so that makes the tasks associated with it desirable as well.
Absolutely. Somebody recently sent me an email. I forget how the exchange went. And he said that he saw a podcast or he heard this somewhere. This is how it goes whisper down the lane, right? Somebody asked themselves or their partner, does this make you want to dance? Like, that's
Oh,
how it should, like you said, delight, right? And
mhm.
that the imagery that it brought to me is, does it make you want to dance? Then do it, right?
Right.
And so that sort of was in my head when you said, does it delight you? I was like, does it make you want to dance?
It's such a great filter.
It is.
We get to decide whatever the filter is. When I first started saying that, I was listening to a podcast while I was shoveling snow, and she was creating her ideal client checklist or something.
Hmm.
And she was like, I'm not available for negativity. And it's my company. So I get to decide who I work with, and you get to decide what you're available for or unavailable for. And
Yeah.
I said out loud, I'm only available for what delights me. And then I laughed because it sounded quite audacious. And then I said it to somebody else, and they were like, oh, oh, can, is that
Can I
allowed?
do that?
Can we do that? Is that a thing? I was like, I'm making it a thing. Would you like to be in my club? In my club,
Yeah.
there's my club. This is so fun.
I'm joining the club. I'm joining the
Right?
club. And see what I would call that in my language, right, is you're creating a reset practice for yourself so
Mhm.
that when it's not delighting you, right? You can take that purposeful pause and say, is this delighting me? Right? And if
Yes.
not, then how can I delegate this or stop doing this or whatever? So
Mhm.
we all have them, right? These reset
Right.
practices, but the more that we recognize where they serve us, we might even get even more out of the practice that we're already doing or create new ones in other areas that we might not be thinking about.
Absolutely. And just I love this framework that you've created because we know freedom is a decision away and we
Mm.
can decide that we want this to go differently. We can't snap our fingers and have it be different, but we can start creating these frameworks where we're have these reset practices, make the course corrections that we can, that we're in control of, and
Mhm.
then either ask people to exit or allow them to have their own experience and stop being codependent with them about
Yeah.
how they need to act a certain way because it's messing with my joy. No, it's unconditional. These reset practices, this focus is regardless of conditions. I've decided this is the woman that I'm becoming,
Mhm.
and these practices are a vote for her.
Mm. I love that. These practices are a vote for her. I really like that.
Yay, thanks. I love this podcast because I get to talk with amazing women and then these beautiful thoughts come to my mind and fall out of my mouth and it's recorded and it's just
And it lives forever.
hooray.
But that's also what I meant by it's constantly developing, right? The more you
Exactly.
talk about this concept of saying yes to yourself, right? The more it expands and it grows and it ripples and every question that someone asks you or says, right? It creates a new thought, a new interaction in a positive way, right? So I
Right.
love the way it develops too.
Yes, and I'm an idea factory. So then I have new ideas that I want to do, and I have 1,000 ideas for everybody else. And like that's how it's when we are in this
Mhm.
creativity and in play. And does it make you want to dance? This movement that's sparked by joy is
Mhm.
what opens up that channel for new, fresh ideas, but
Mhm.
it requires making that decision, setting that intention. What is my focus here? Is my focus to attend to these emails, or is my focus to be the person who communicates my values and the values of this company to every customer? That's going to make you attend to the emails differently and from a different space, right? And
Absolutely.
you get to own how your tasks are playing out by what story they're telling, and you are the author of that story.
Absolutely. That's so well said.
Thanks. Again, I love this podcast. I'm not the same woman on the morning of interview day as I am on the afternoon because I just have these gorgeous expansive conversations and it's dreamy. And now there's I could do a podcast every day. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Well, you should, right?
I know. So fun. It's so fun. So what are you finding as a result of the book? I know and I said it in your introduction, but I want you to say out loud because I like to watch your face when you say it, how well received it's been, and then what has happened on the other side of birthing this beautiful 2-year gestating baby that surprised and delighted you.
Well, I'm really blessed to say that the book did extremely well. So it was on the USA Today national bestseller list 4 weeks running in September when it was out. So I'm super excited that, and I just fell short of the New York Times bestseller list for a number of different reasons, but that's only then. That was last year.
Yeah, do you get another run at it? Right. I
Oh
mean, there are
yeah,
books that've been written a long time ago that make it.
absolutely.
So, yeah, let's reframe that story.
I'm just talking about when it came out. I'm just talking
That's
about when it came
amazing,
out. So you're absolutely right, is who knows where it's going to go. And that's one of the
right?
exciting pieces is
Yeah.
I feel like it's gaining momentum.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm actually a keynote speaker. And so I speak about it and then do follow-up trainings with organizations. So a lot more of that is happening. This was part of how it expands because it doesn't only
Mhm.
expand by the things, that come out of me, but what comes out of other people. So this one manager said to me, "Oh yeah, now since we've read it, we've been implementing it into our organization." And they're like, "Now reset for us is a verb and a noun in our organization."
Oh, that gives me chills.
Yeah, so I mean that is super amazing, right? That they've got this common language and a really effective way to to take action and to give themselves that space, as the noun, that moment, right, to recognize that, creating the awareness that it does. So it's exciting. It's just that's what has been super fun and delighting to me is hearing how people are receiving it. Somebody sent me an audio. He's read a ton of books, seen a ton of speakers. He's an MC. He was in Las Vegas for a number of years as a illusionist and everything. And he's like, that was the most practical book that I could implement immediately and feel and see a difference in my life.
Yay. That sounds like a New York Times bestseller to me.
Yeah, well, it will be, right?
It
Whether
will
it's
be. Can't
2025
wait.
or 2026, who knows?
Who ca time.
And
Time.
who cares,
It's
right?
a construct. Right. It's not like you have to write the book before it can be that. You've already written the book. Now it just gets to be that.
Well, I probably will go back and make another addition to it.
Awesome.
But yeah, absolutely. And it really, at this point in the beginning, it was the goal and that was, but now it's just touching people's lives one life at a time is really just great. Like
Right?
it's amazing. Like you said, to get to do this work and get to hear this kind of feedback is just humbling. It's beautiful. I'm so in love with the human spirit and what is possible that
Yes.
if something that I can put out there can ignite that spirit and help
Right.
us find the best parts of ourself,
Mm,
that's what it's about.
it's so good. What a brilliant day at the office.
Yeah, right.
Right? Oh my gosh. It's
Plenty of
amazing.
non-brilliant days, but yeah.
Whatever.
I wanted to if we have a chance, I don't know how our timing is,
Absolutely.
but
No, no, no. We're good.
I'd love to share, because I thought about, some pivotal moments when I said yes to myself, right? So I wanted to like go through my
Yeah,
thoughts.
I would love to hear.
And there was one moment where actually I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because everything builds on top of each other, right? Of
Yeah.
like you said, voting for that next version of ourself. And it starts
Mhm.
with that first time that you say yes to yourself and every time that you say yes to yourself thereafter, right?
Yes.
Funny enough, after I went to college for accounting and finance, and I
Mhm.
did it just because my dad was an accountant and I felt like it was safe. It wasn't really something I loved to do. And in college, I took all these IT courses and I was like the only one who did, I'm going to age myself here,
Sure.
who did all the COBOL programs.
Okay, sure.
For those of you who are young, COBOL doesn't really exist anymore, but it's a programming language.
Yes.
And I just love to the challenge to work these problems out. And so I had an opportunity to go to do more application development. I wasn't formally trained in it, but somehow when I was working in Europe, I had the opportunity to join Arthur Andersen, which is a big consulting company,
Mhm.
and work in this application development area. So I was super excited. And I thought, I kept telling myself though the story that I this isn't my area of expertise. I'm
Right.
lucky to have this. I probably won't be able to develop this anywhere, but I'm going to give it a go. And there was some friends of mine. They're like, we should create a business together. We should go out and we should start something. And I'm like, oh no, that's where that story came in. Not
Right.
me. I don't have a degree
Right.
in technology. How am I going to go and stand in front of somebody and tell them that I'm qualified to do their work? I'm like, oh no, 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 I
Right.
can't do that. And then we had somebody come into our project from the UK who was a contractor. And he was making like $200 an hour, which at that time, that was also many years ago. So it's a good salary now,
Sure.
but even back then it was huge. And I looked at him and I was managing him
Hmm.
and I looked at the work that he was doing.
Hmm.
I could do that.
That's right.
Right. So that story for me, that was kind of my reset moment, right? To get out of my old story
Hmm.
and to say, why not me?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right. What if it works?
Right. What exactly? Not what if it doesn't work, right? But what
Right.
if it works, right? Why not me?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I jumped in and I said yes to myself. I said yes to starting a business. And that decision led me to start and own my own technology business that I grew from just myself to a multi-million-dollar business. And I sold it to a public company.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It would
You're
not have happened if
welcome.
I didn't say yes to myself.
That's right.
Right. And I didn't take that leap and change my story. And so I think it's really important, right, for people who are listening just to ask themselves, that goes with that energy of thought that I was talking about. What story are you telling
Hmm.
yourself that's
Right.
limiting you, that's holding you
Yeah.
back from being all you can be? You said earlier about who we can become.
Mhm.
And we only live one life. Like, why not? Right? Like,
Right.
what are you saving it for? Like,
Right.
take a
Until
chance.
your knees hurt? Goodness
What's
sakes.
yeah, what's
Let's
the, what's
do
the worst that
this.
can happen? So you have to start again or, whatever.
And oftentimes it's no worse than what we're experiencing right now, which is making us even be in the environment of entertaining change. I was speaking with someone a few weeks ago on the podcast, and we were talking about, I was mentioning how I'm divorced, and she said, "Oh, well, I know that that's hard." And I was like, "Thank you, but it was no harder than death by a thousand paper cuts of my marriage." Like, that was the hard part, was having the courage to
Mhm.
utter the sentence out loud to him, but nothing else is hard on the other side of that. I'm
Right.
figuring things out. I'm going forward. I'm trying new things, but it feels more like the right kind of hard than the hard that was just keeping me small, stuck in a story that I didn't even want to be in.
Yeah.
No fun.
Yeah. Well, and it has a total ripple effect. I don't know if you have kids, but like,
Do we have an 11-year-old?
right. And what's worse? Are you going to teach that child like
That's
what a
exactly,
loveless marriage that they
totally,
should accept and tolerate, and like not being happy, and you know what happens then?
exactly. The woman that I was then, I don't, do I become the woman I am now if I don't do that? But I believe that I would have stayed and
Hmm.
tolerated that if it wasn't for Amelia. But I was not available to model that as acceptable for her.
Mm. I found the same thing. I found that looking at my kids and what I wanted for my kids made me, it's because it's stepping out of our own ego. It's not about
Exactly.
that, right? So
Hmm.
stepping out of our ego and looking at the bigger picture, what does it mean for them? How can I create an experience for them that'll still make them feel loved and cared for and what's important? And
Right.
I do believe that brought out the best in me. So I'm sure, that's what you
Totally.
just said too, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, be the bigger person and step back and really see,
Right.
people bring out the worst in each other in these types of
Hmm.
divorce situations, but there is another way, right?
Totally. I'm having the best divorce there ever was because I decided that's what I was having. And he's
Exactly.
having whatever one he's having. But I also know that I freed us both. So when we have these opportunities to reset, our courage has ripple effects. And
Mhm.
there's always a double blessing in whatever you're deciding to jump into or whatever you're deciding to exit.
Yeah, I agree. I totally, it's what we make of it. People say the same thing. Oh, this must be so difficult or whatever. Really, it's what you make of it. And
Yep.
there were difficult moments. That's not to say, I think it's important that we also say, because I know you believe this too, this isn't about toxic positivity.
Right. That's what I was doing in my marriage, actually.
Right?
Right.
So, but some people can interpret it like that. Oh, you're just,
Yeah.
you make it what it is. That's just being positive. No, you can take a really crappy situation and
Mhm.
make it a little less crappy.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that you're making it great.
Right.
Just means that you're shifting the intensity so that you're not in a woe is me, you're not the victim of it.
Hmm.
And that you're going to get through it,
Yes.
and you focus on what's on the other side.
That's right. And it's so good.
It
Yay.
is good. Hey,
Perfect.
I'm remarried. I'm super
Oh,
happy.
yay for
My
you.
kids
Hooray.
are my kids were 1 and 3 when I got divorced. So,
Okay.
and my kids are absolutely beautiful souls. They are intelligent, they're articulate, they are loving, and just so it means I made good choices.
That's right. Oh, it's so beautiful. Would you be available to share? Did you say there are four pillars, or you mentioned that there are pillars? So how is the book structured so that we can speak to the practicality? We already know it's the
Sure.
most practical book that the illusionist can of all the books he read, which is so amazing. But I would love to hear
Sure.
how what you wrote. Tell us.
Sure. Well, I'll give you an overview. So, the reset mindset is based on three, let's call them pillars. But in the book, I didn't actually go into each of those pillars. They come across in another way, but I'll explain more. So the three pillars are dynamic reassessment,
Mm.
value creation, and the willingness to reinvent.
Oh, so good.
So those are the three things that go into the reset, right? And a reset mindset is the way that it gets triggered and the way that you build it is one reset moment at a time.
Mm.
And a reset moment are the signals, those moments that we can recognize that we need to reset, that someone else needs to reset, right? So that we don't go storming by it, that we recognize, I don't feel good right now.
Mm.
I'm exhausted. I need to take time for me, or this person is clearly upset with me. They're yelling at me. We need to take a reset in whatever way it might be for the situation. So it's that
Right.
reset moment is the recognizing. And what happens when we call it a reset moment and we really use that language, it triggers those pillars and the
Yes.
principles. And it actually intuitively makes us take 3 steps to step
Mm.
back, get perspective, and realign. It's intuitive. It's intuitive in the word. And I
Right.
found that this was what I do all the time. Many, many years ago, it started out more as a resiliency tool for me when my father died in an accident. And I
Mm.
needed to take these
Sorry.
purposeful pauses to ground myself and just feel a little in control when my life was out of control.
Hmm.
But I realized they're everywhere. We have
Right.
these opportunities. It's not just the big pivotal moments, it's the everyday need some creativity because you feel stuck and need, like you said, all those ideas, or you need a break or whatever it is, right? To rethink, to recharge. So it's those moments. But when we call it a reset, we are intuitively doing those things, stepping back away from the emotion, from the intensity, so that we can really see things for what they are.
Right.
And then that is what opens up us to new perspectives so that we can ask new questions, so that we can involve other people, right? There's a whole host of different ways that we can get perspective. We can read a quote, we can listen to a song that moves us, we can watch a movie, we can read a book, right? There's so many different things, right? We can analyze a competitor, it can go in all
Hmm.
different directions. It's meant to be very broad.
Right.
And then we can realign around the best next step, what
Mm.
is serves us best. But it can be it's a way of thinking, right? And then we can look at specific frameworks and strategies that go into that. But first, we need to adapt the mindset about the way that we think about things. Instead of reacting emotionally,
Mm.
we can be a little bit more objective, say, okay, let's take a reason. This is intense.
Right.
And then that opens up us to be more resourceful in every area of our life.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I can only imagine the ripple effects in that company that you mentioned earlier, that all of the employees are reading this, or all
Yeah.
of the management team. And like you said, this common language, the growth of that company is going to be remarkable because everyone is now on this trajectory that doesn't require self-abandon, that doesn't require drinking the Kool-Aid of what the guy in
Right.
charge wants and whatever his nonsense is, but we just have to keep our head down and do it. No, and that they've bought into, oh, it's so
It's
good.
permission to speak up. It's right to say, hey, something feels off here. Could we take a reset and reevaluate this?
Right?
And I've heard people have come back to me with different ways that they use it. Oh my goodness, this week we had this really intense situation where we thought, we had to contact the CEO. We were worried about our jobs.
Mm,
Everybody was so intense. And she said, I remember the session. I said, hey guys, let's just take a reset moment. And this was a different company where not everybody was there, but
right?
a woman. And she said, let's everybody just give ourselves 5 minutes to leave the room and then we'll come back.
Mm,
Everybody
yeah,
go take a walk, get a drink of water.
right.
So they did that. They came back and it was the way that they saw the situation was
Right.
different. It wasn't the
Right.
intensity had come down. Now they could say, well, what do we know? Da, 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 and
Right.
they could approach it in a calmer way. And they were able to realize it wasn't as bad as they thought. They didn't need to contact the CEO and they found a solution of how to move
Mm,
forward. So it's like, it's so like, duh,
right.
people, oh yeah, let's just take a pause and let's just step back, get perspective and realign. Like,
Right.
I know, it's
You
ridiculously
probably want me to breathe also and take my
right,
shoes off and ground. Yes, I do. That's
right.
exactly what I want you to do.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
breathing helps, right? But hey,
Yep.
we're not going to talk about that. But all of these little things, right? It's because we're human.
Right.
And we know what to do in almost every situation, but we don't do what we know because we're
Right.
emotional and we're always trying to, not always, we often are trying, especially leaders, are trying to deal with an emotional reaction by
Mhm.
bringing a logical solution.
Right.
And so that doesn't work. But
Right.
these 3 steps, as simple and accessible and easy to use as they are, they move us
Sure.
from the high intensity to somewhere where we can be more resourceful. And that's it. It
Right.
doesn't need to be harder than that.
Right. And it's just this beautiful shift of focus from the problem to the solution.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay, I have loved this conversation. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get their own copy of the book, everything you want us to know.
Well, the book's available on Amazon, so definitely you can go there to pick it up, or Barnes and Noble, or any of the bookstores that you like to shop with. They can go to the resetmindset.net. That is sort of my page for the book,
Mhm.
and they can also go to Substack. I have a newsletter that I just launched, so whenever this airs, there'll be a number of newsletters that are already out and already getting some really great feedback about that. And where else? And YouTube, just look for Penny Zenker and the Reset Mindset, and you'll see lots of resources and stories and video clips and things that can support you along the journey.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. We will link all of that down in the show notes. I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much, Penny.
Wendy, I am so glad that I said yes to this podcast. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Everybody wins when we say yes to ourselves. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.